All right. Hello, everyone. Just gonna do another IncusOS kind of development update and live stream this week. Should be a pretty short one because I got a bunch of other things I need to do. So I'm gonna end up picking something pretty simple that can hopefully be done end to end during this live stream. Next week is gonna be an Incus release, so that's partly the reason why I'm gonna try and keep this one somewhat short, so that I can go and focus on actual Incus prep work for the release next week. Especially because I'm gonna be away over the weekend and also part of tomorrow, so that's reducing the amount of time before the upcoming Incus release. So, alright. What did we do on IncusOS over the past week? That should be a bit of a quicker catch up than last time. Since last time there was a lot, this time it's a bit more reasonable, I think. So let's see, past week. So one thing in the previous live stream focused on the image publisher. So effectively the tool that's used to publish the tree on the image server that the different IncusOS machines then download to apply their updates. That's kind of what we see here with some of those new commands coming up. The prune command was added. I did a few tweaks right after to the image customizer as well. Let's actually, let me find, because that's a bit too late. Yeah, last week. Okay, that's still last week. So it's actually maybe more than one page we need to look at. Yep. Okay, that's quite a bit. Wow, hold on. Last week is last week. So 14th, was that the last live stream? I think it was. Yeah. Okay, so anything after the 13th we should look at. Okay, so anything up there. That was done right before the live stream, so it was effectively adding the support for multiple channels to be used on the images. Then doing some cleanup to support both AMD64 and ARM64 images in the index. In parallel, we were doing some tweaks and fixing around our proxy story, so that's what's going on here. Then fixed typo in the API, tweaked the timing of the API a bit, so that there's no chicken and egg. I think I described that one last week already. No chicken and egg type issue between Incus and IncusOS during startup, so that got fixed. More tweaking around ordering, and then there should be some of the image publisher work that was done last week. So that was the first change I did in the last live stream, so just creating the target if it's missing. We then cleaned up some user reported issues and just kind of niceties that we did to clean up some log messages on machines. So that's all happened there. Fixed one of the publishing path in, one of the handling of one of the publishing path within the provider logic. So when accessing the image server, we were, I think that logic was missing a slash, and so we were making up for that missing slash on the server side in the index. That looked kind of wrong. So figured we'd fix it in the provider, and then in a few months we can remove the hack from the server side. So it was that. Then there's that commit, which is the extensive rework of image publisher. That was the last live stream. So effectively moving it to being a proper command using SPF 13 for command handling, and then having a sync and promote and I think there's another command, prune commands all being added. Once that landed, that made it possible to publish ARM64 images. So then did another couple of tweaks to make that possible. We'll see probably a few more commits like those coming up afterwards. But basically, adding missing AR64 to ARM64 support here and there. There was an issue on production grade servers where some of the measurements for Secure Boot weren't quite working due to us not knowing about some Secure Boot variables. That's been fixed now. We tweaked the the order that the images are published in, so that the most recent shows up at the top. That simplifies the handling on the clients, so they don't need to do like version number comparison or that kind of stuff. They can just rely on the order coming from the index. Fixed handling of fiber channel within the storage API, and then added the prune command to the publisher. So effectively the way it works on the image server now is every time there's a tag, the image automatically gets imported within a testing channel. Then if we are happy with the image, we can promote it from testing over to stable. And then once it's in stable, then it gets used kind of throughout. So whether it's the image customizer or just user downloads, usually you want to use stable for that. And what prune does is it takes a number of images that you want to retain in all existing channels. And then it goes through the list of images and sees what can be deleted while keeping X number of images per channel. In the production image server, we keep that at 3. So we have 3 images in testing and stable at any one time. Then yeah, the image customizer, it was designed to just look at files on disk, like directly expect like an image ISO and an image RAW directly on disk for it to serve. That didn't really line up with how we're doing things these days, so I changed it now to look at the tree that matches what image publisher pushes out. That way we can run the image customizer with a read-only view of the actual image server in our environment, and have it just detect whatever is the latest stable image and return that. So just a bit of tweaking there, which is gonna save us quite a bit of time, because in the past, whenever we move a new image to stable, we had to also go and tweak the download site to pick that image. Now that's gonna effectively happen automatically. Then a few more tweaks around the proxy handling. Debian Trixie released, we just did a bit of tweaking there. To make sure we actually use that and we don't roll on to the next testing release. A few bit more tweaking around disk IDs as installation targets. We had some issues with that, where what the user would provide was not what we were expecting, and so the disk wouldn't be detected correctly. So we fixed that logic now. More ARM64 fixing, more ARM64 fixing. So basically some other pieces where we forgot to tweak a GUID or tweak partition type or that kind of stuff. So we just fixed that. The Operation Center provider also followed suit with the channel to channels rename. So that happened there. And then this morning we just fixed some initialization logic around storage for ZFS ZPO. So that's where we're at as far as the changes over the past week. Still pretty busy, but mostly bug fixes, and then the infrastructure changes to the publisher and the image customizer. So first thing first, let's just get ourselves a current IncusOS VM running, because I don't have one right now. So for that, we can actually go directly on the image downloader, and we want an ISO for installation. Can wipe the target drive automatically, or don't automatically reboot. Apply default config, and then we need to put our key. So Incus remote get client certificate. Here we go. Copy paste that stuff there and download. Okay. I did hit download. Oh, lovely. So I guess we're gonna get to fix that now. Invalid character looking for beginning of value. What the hell is that now? Let's see what we send over the network. Okay. Post. Request. Hey, why aren't you showing me what you actually sent? I mean, if it sent nothing, then that would explain the problem for sure, but there's no header, no request details, no nothing. So come on. What's going on? Then get go to 500, which yeah, makes sense, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Let me see what's going on the server side real quick. So, okay, it's running. Is there anything useful in the journal? No, that's just the normal log output. Oh, is the index currently messed up? That could be. That's images OS. Okay. Index JSON. Is that fine? No, it's not. Okay, so that's the issue. All right, let me fix that real quick. Been battling a bit of an issue with Ceph lately, and that tends to lead to this particular mess. So we just need to regenerate the index to fix that issue, which is easy enough. I'm just gonna go on the machine, like behind the scenes on the machine that does the publishing and signing, and then trigger a new promotion of the latest image, which will regenerate the index and will fix the issue. So the index now should be okay. Yeah, that's looking good, which means this guy should actually function now to download the working image. Like I had this glitch this morning and I thought I fixed everything that happened from it, but not quite, looks like. So download. Yeah, there we go. Now we're downloading an ISO. Okay, that's very good. All right, just. So we do have the image still downloading. Like as a reminder, we actually do download stuff compressed. So the it's mostly the source server needing to actually skip through the file and fill in some of the gaps when it's downloading the actual whole thing. Okay, we have it. Now I can go and create a new VM from that. I don't need to be on that one anymore. Yeah, okay. Incus create, just call it IncusOS. We want that to be a VM. It needs to be empty. It should not have the Microsoft keys. 4 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and we'll give it 100 gigs of disk space, and that should do that. Then add a TPM, and lastly add the install drive. So there, and make it a priority for boot. Oops, forgot the name. There we go. Okay, and then if we start that, we should see it do its key enrollment. There we go. Now it's rebooting. It's gonna go through install. Okay, just need to do a quick something on the server side because I don't think we've actually published the tree yet. Okay, now the tree is published, so that's fine, that should work. Like basically I fixed that index, but we don't immediately publish the modified index to the front ends. So I just triggered that manually so that when this reboots, it will actually be able to download the application. So stopping IncusOS, removing the install drive from it, and then we can start it back up and look at the VGA console. There we go. So that should then boot up and install Incus for us. IncusOS starting. Here we go. Okay. I don't know if it's gonna be happy with the network, actually. It's always a tricky thing on this machine. Because I'm on IPv6 only, so it might not be super happy with the network. We'll see. No, okay, it's fine. Oh yeah, because the index was pointing to the previous stable image, and it's downloading the latest testing image, so it's doing that. Downloading and packing that. Yep. And then it's gonna be rebooting onto that. Playing OS update. So actually one thing we fixed, like in the ordering I mentioned earlier, now we download we're downloading the application at the same time as the OS image, so that on reboot, we don't then immediately have to download more stuff. So it should actually reboot this time with everything already being operational. There we go. Starting up, bringing up network. Just waiting again for the IPv6 network to behave. I've got another faster network that I can put things on that actually provides IPv4 as well, which makes that kind of stuff a lot happier. But it worked earlier, so it should still work now. Nope, timeout. Okay, let's try it again. If not, I'm just gonna shut it down and move it onto Incus BR1, which should take care of that problem. Yeah, that's not, I don't have the time for that. So let's just move it to the other network. Stopping the VM, IncusOS, then overrides the network. So because OS, if 0 needs to be network Incus BR1. I should see the network work a lot faster this time around. Bringing up network again. Yep, there we go. Network's happy. Local storage, starting application, and here we go. Up and running. Cool. So that's IncusOS running. Don't remember its IP address, but Okay, so it's on the IPv6 only, FD42 or something. Okay, but if we do incus list, we should be able to see that. Since it's a convenient VM, here we go. So this IP address here, incus remote add, yep, and now we can interact with it, including what we need for today, which is interacting with the IncusOS API. There we go. So what are we actually doing today? 20 minutes into the stream. I said it's a pretty simple one I'm looking at doing, which is this guy. So implementing an applications API. Right now we have a bit of that in the API I just showed. So when we query OS 1.0, it does show a list of applications. That's basically what we want to re-export. We'll just remove it from this endpoint and move it to its own API, because that API endpoint is just something we use mostly for debugging. It's going to go away. It's going to be different. So we're just cleaning that stuff up. Okay, so if we go into the IncusOS tree, here we go. I'm actually going to just reconfigure my display here because it's kind of hard for me to see what I'm doing. Well, it's being recorded. There we go. Okay. Now I can actually read my screen, so that's nice. So APIs, we need to go look at the REST API and where's everything loaded in server, I guess? Yep. So we've got debug as an endpoint, services, and system. Now what we want is applications. So we want a route like so, and we do API applications. It's going to work kind of the same way as services does. So it's actually applications and then a secondary endpoint for name. And that's the applications, and we do applications endpoint. Okay. So that's basically what we want as far as the structure. We can just go and copy what's been done for services because, again, the general structure is kind of similar. So we can do that. Main difference is that applications will be read-only for now. Okay. So let's just rename anything that says services into applications instead. There we go. I don't know exactly what types we need. I don't think there's an applications package, is there? Oh, there is, yeah, okay. So let's import that, I guess. So only get is allowed. When you hit get, it goes through the list of potential applications, which we don't currently have. So I need to actually sort that part out. Like unlike services that can be enabled or disabled, applications can't. So instead, we need to fetch from the state the list of applications. So that's kind of what we have here. So it's s.state.applications. I'm going to go and use that. I'm not sure we actually need that import. It is not for now. Name is basically just a list of strings, and we can probably make that to 0 and then length of this guy, and then we can populate that with something like this. Okay, append the name, then we sort the names and we go through that. Okay, so that endpoint should be okay. And then we'll need the same thing again. So first check is whether it is valid. Obviously it's no longer a service, an application. So we'll just do, actually we can grab the application itself, it's fine. From state applications, and then the name. And this check here becomes a, if it's not okay, so if we don't find it, then return a 404. This one was missing a variable for the receiver here. There we go. Check application is valid. So that was doing a bunch more stuff. We don't really need any of that. We only care about get at this point, so we can actually have the same check as was done here for the time being. And then can I remove all that stuff? It was put, oops. Okay, get was returning a response, sync response. Yeah, so we basically can do just that for now. Which should basically do what we want. Okay. Now what are the chances that this builds and works? I can try it building it here. Go build. IncusOS REST. Okay. So a few tiny glitches. We don't need the JSON package. 21. Yeah, that's wrong. It shouldn't be instantiated. Just be the type. Here we go. What's next? 23. Yeah, name of the slice is missing. Okay, fix that. And 29, go over applications. That's not that, we just go over the names. And okay, that should build. Yep, good. Let's see what static analysis looks like. All right. Oh, true. Yeah, we don't need to do that. We can just do it like that. And we've got something that builds properly, at least. Now let's see if it works properly. So just build the binary and can move it over to the test VM. And then IncusOS root, IncusOS bash. And then bind mount that binary over the real one. Okay. And then just force a restart of the service. Okay, it's back online. And lastly, we can go and hit it to see what happens. So 1.0 still works as before. Slash application shows one application, Incus, and then Incus shows that the application is initialized with that version number. Now, not exactly the structure I really want. There's a potential for us wanting configuration on those applications directly. So I think what we'd want API-wise is something closer to the services. So if I look at the service, it kind of looks like this. We've got config and state. I think we want the same structure here with config and state. So to do that, we're going to need to do a bit of API wrapping. Let's just see how that's done again. For, so say I do one of the services, NVMe or something. Okay, we just have the struct here. And we've got one for every single service, which is not really what we want for applications. And we don't really have a struct for the, yeah, so I think we can do a generic application struct for now and then see if that changes, but we can basically do this and then do, I don't need that actually. Application. Let's say the configuration of a generic application. Like, again, that might change. We might add in more structure down the line, but for now, we can just keep it like that. So the config exists as a struct, but there's currently no such thing for any of the applications, so we can just use that kind of generically. And then the state, what do we actually have? So we have whether it's been initialized and we've got the version, so we can do that. So initialized is a bool. And that's technically structs we already have internally within our, if I do IncusOS the internal state structs, that should be in here. So if I load the struct, yeah, there we go. The application is already defined here. So we'll effectively move over from one struct to the other, so we can start using the API struct thing in here internally. That's what we've done in a bunch of other places. All of here, like we use the API structs. So what that means is that for applications, it actually turns into a map string pointing to an API.application instead. So just change the syntax slightly to that. And we don't need this struct here anymore because it's effectively the same. Okay. So the main difference is that our API structs are designed for both YAML and JSON. The internal one was not. The version, was it a string? It was a string, okay. Okay. So something like that. Oops. Bad syntax in here. It's not jumping at me. What did I mess up? Oh, yeah, bool string. Oh, I was wrong. Cool. So just change that now. Now, if I try to actually build it, okay, it's unhappy because there's another reference within the state file for the application. So this is actually an API.application now. Okay, next up, info.version undefined. Okay, so there's something wrong in here. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, okay. So we need to change that a bit. That's going to be slightly annoying, actually. Because now there's like both state and config for those structs. That will make it into the persistent states. That's not a bad thing per se, but it means we need to change a few code paths. So 266 here. When we want version, it's actually state version there. That's probably not going to be the only one. Yeah, there we go. That causes a whole bunch of changes. Basically, anywhere we do app version, which is the main thing we're doing, that becomes state, 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 more state. Here too. Okay, how far are we? There's a few more. 465 here. Oh, initialize this time. Okay. Okay. All right, and then 745, no method. Okay, so I missed that one. That's another version, isn't it? Yep, version, there we go. And who else do we have? 746, 763, okay. So this one here. 763 is this one down here. Okay. So that's basically all of those. Just still an error in this one. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so that builds, which is good, but we might need to actually transition the data on disk as part of this. I've never done that before, and that's something that Matthias has been taking care of so far. So let's see if we can figure this out together. In state, encode, decode, it's one of those that handles it. But doesn't do any data migration. It's possibly in decode that we're doing the transition. Spark system encryption renamed to system security with renaming a couple of fields. Okay, so that was one. That's the second fix. Also pretty involved one for the proxies. I think we need something closer to V1. So we're gonna need to do a V3. V3 struct application. So I'm not actually sure what it's named in the state. So let's go look. Var lib IncusOS state. And the applications are directly top level, like so. So it's effectively the fields are renamed. So what was named application something initialized is now application something state initialized, version is state.version. So applications have fields moved under state struct. So we'll do that as the description. And then, so if it's got the prefix applications something, then we want to replace the line, like within the line, we want to replace dot initialized colon space with dot state dot initialized colon space. And we'll do the same thing for the version so that it lands in the right spot. Okay, so that should do it. I don't know if V2, V3 stuff, if I need to bump anything else. I don't think so. Yeah, that should be okay. So let's try building that. Okay, and pushing the binary over. So we need to remove the old one. Unmount the temporary version we've got mounted here. And then mount it again and restart the daemon. This time I want to see what the output of the daemon is. Okay, it didn't complain. That's good. Let's look at the state file. Okay, the transition did work. So we can see the application version and initialized state have changed. Now I want to look at the console because the console does show that information. So I want to make sure it's correct. Oops, let me just zoom that in correctly. Yeah, we see IncusOS, well, install applications Incus and the correct version string. So that worked. It didn't show any download or reprovision of the application, so that worked correctly. Looks like the transition logic functioned as expected. Now, let's see what the API looks like. OS 1.0 applications here. And now we've got config and state. Yeah, that looks good actually. That lines up perfectly with what's in the API. All right, let's see if by doing any of that stuff I made any more static analysis unhappy. I did. Okay. I mean, some of that is simple. It's just rerun go format. That will take care of the main one. And then vertical alignment within the structs. That's just one of our linters being a bit picky, but wants that. And that should be fine. Nope, tag is not aligned. Should be. JSON initialize, JSON version, yeah. Okay, what did I miss in the alignment? I mean, that looks good to me. Is it complaining about another struct somehow? No. I don't remember if this one is one of the fixable ones. Let's see. Because Golang CI, if you run it manually, it's got a fix option. Yeah, just did it. Okay, cool. That will save me from having to interpret what fix it actually wanted. Oh, okay. Yeah, so what happened is that there was excess spaces here, so it removed that. Okay, that makes sense, fine. And with that, static analysis should be completely clean now. It's just a license check, but that's gonna succeed. We didn't put anything new in. Yep. All right, so that's the full change now. So to split that up, we're gonna first do the API transition with the state and everything, and then do the new API on top of that. So I'm gonna slice it in this way. This would be my first commit. IncusOS API add application struct like that. And then the next one is IncusOS move state to API.application. So we'll do that. We can do actually make it in the state package like that. So move to API application and wanted the state specifically. Okay, so this guy, that guy, yep, that and that. Okay, and then IncusOS update for state change. So that's gonna be, yep, this one, not that, not that. Not sure why this one wasn't picked up. Should have been. Okay. And then lastly, we get an internal REST add applications API with everything that's left. Okay. And this needs to close the correct GitHub issue, which is 235, like that. And then this one needs to merge with the previous commit. And we're good to go. So pushing that up, and then we can do compare IncusOS, add applications API. And that's what we end up with. So if we look now at the commits, first one just adds the API struct to the public API package. Next up, adds the state, like moves the state over to that API struct with the on-disk conversion. So that's that. And then update the main daemon code to use the new struct. And lastly, we add our tiny REST API to just be able to query the applications that way. And that's basically that. I'm gonna ask Matthias for a review because of the state transition. And that should be it for this one. Just thinking if there's anything else I wanted to cover in this stream. I guess we can look at what else is kind of going on. So Matthias is currently focused on adding additional application packages for Migration Manager and Operation Center. So why I'm working on this new API, so that we're going to have more applications very soon. So it makes sense to add some extra APIs to make that easier to keep track of and manage. Actually, one more commit we could put in there is removing it from the old API. So from API root, there was that internal REST API root. Like we don't need that entry anymore now we've got our own API. So let's do that. IncusOS REST, remove applications from session panel. Actually from 1.0 struct to be clear there. Just checking this one. Okay, it failed some test somehow. Code test failed. Okay. Sometimes we've got stricter linting on GitHub. Oh, okay. No, it's not the linter that fails, the Go tests. Okay, so we'll still need to take care of that. Let's run the Go tests locally. Yep. Failed the state tests. That makes sense. We effectively have some pretty strict tests in here that contain actual data. So if we look at applications, so that's V0, it's V1, V2. Okay, so that's why we've got V1, 2, 3. Let me check. Let me figure out what to do here. Test basing, custom encoding, decoding of state, test upgrading each known old state. So that's going. Okay, so we'll need to do gold encoding V2. And V3 is the current state, I guess. Then that works. Test simple upgrade. So let's go decode into V3. Yeah, so there's something that writes a version 9. I didn't see mention of 2 in the state, but I might have missed it. Oh yeah, current state version. There we go. That's what I missed. Okay, so that should be bumped to 3. There we go. So I'm gonna move that into the state commit I've had earlier. So fix that. And then did I already copy V2 into a V3? No. So I need to do that. So we need a V3 version of this stuff. V3. And I said the only difference should be state dot here. So something like that. Now who knows if that's actually gonna build. Okay, things still build. And what did the tests do? Tests are not happy. Well, they're not happy. Okay, so there's a test for the actual version, so that needs fixing 9121, and there's a thing at 160 that's also failing. Okay, I think this one, yeah, it wants to see state version, so that goes to 3. After all the upgrades, we end up with state 3, and this should be multi-line. That's fine. Let's see if that test goes good, like passes after this change. Yeah, it did. And then 160 has an issue. So State version, it expects to see 4 for some reason. What's going on with this test? Test upgrade funcs. Okay, so it's doing on purpose 2 more upgrades. No, it does null, and then 2 more. So that gets to 4, that's fine. Okay. So it's decoding into v3, and then OS name is not correct. What is it getting back for OS name? It's getting the fallback. It's getting IncusOS instead of my test OS. Kind of confused by this one. Let me look at what Matthias did last time. He needs to update the state, which was this guy. So that came with a migration function, that's fine. That came with a, okay, this should not matter. Current state went from 1 to 2, so now this one went from 2 to 3. It changed some of the golden state, the golden coding stuff, that's fine. And that's what that added, the v0, v1. Now we put v2 in there, that's okay. Oh, upgrade funcs got an extra nil. And then the state version increased by 1. Okay, so let's do the same thing. So we do an extra nil, and then we increase that by 1. Yay, pass. Okay. All right, so let's just do another commit for IncusOS state. Update test for v3. And then rebase this stuff. So that goes onto this one. This can go here. And then push that. Okay. Don't know if Matthias will already have done a review, hopefully not. No, he didn't look at it yet, looks like. That's good. Because otherwise it would have been a waste of his time to figure out what I did wrong when I already figured out what I did wrong. Let's see if the tests pass this time, but they should, because they're running fine locally now. Okay. So that's when test build succeeded, then analysis would have cleared and it would have failed at unit tests. So that should be fine this time around. Probably gonna want to find a way to make things slightly lighter if we need to add more of those kind of state transitions. Like good testing makes sense, but if we need to copy paste basically the exact same data every time, that might not be the best way. We might want to have like a diff or something we can apply to go from 0, 1, 2, 3 with just the delta we want in the state to make it easier to test without having to copy paste the same stuff over and over again. And failed again. Oh, because alignment. Lovely. Okay. I should have run static analysis again locally, but anyway. It's that last commit that just didn't have alignment to be correct. Just checking there's nothing else. Now we're good. All right, so that's been pushed. It's running through tests again. And that's where I'll leave it. So just to go quickly through the commits, add the struct, add the migration logic with the schema bump, then update the tests to match the change to the schema. Next, we've got updating the code itself to use the new structs. Then finally, then adding the API itself, which is very trivial. And lastly, we've got just removing that endpoint from the old kind of development / 1.0 endpoints, and just now that we've got a proper API to query this stuff. And that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully this was still interesting, even if it's a bit of a simpler one. We do have a bunch of stuff ongoing with IncusOS. That's why we've got like 14 issues open right now. As mentioned, we're currently looking at packaging those two applications. We've got a few more things here and there, and some pretty complex one, like having more complex update policies that can be set, implementing recovery mode as well, and just trying to make things even more reliable and start to use IncusOS for more than what we have so far. And that's it. As mentioned, next week is going to be an Incus release week, so there won't be a live stream. I'll just do a video announcement of the Incus release probably on Friday, which puts the next live stream as to the week after that. If you got any questions about this stuff, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section, or you can go on our community forum and post or chat over there. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.